All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Keith Thurman calls out Terence Crawford and offers him the fight that Terence Crawford says that he really wants. Let's talk about that in the welterweight division because, man, I'm telling you, I'm loving it. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. More conversation about the welterweight division. We had an excellent fight this weekend between Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, a fight that I think is getting us that much closer to an undisputed champion at 147 pounds. It also was just a great weekend of boxing. Really enjoyed the fight. I paid I don't know how much it was, $79, whatever it was that I paid for the fight. Was happy that I paid it. I didn't even watch much of the undercard. I was just so happy to see two of the best welterweights in that division fight each other. And honestly, you know, in one of the most packed divisions in boxing, it was Terence Crawford. In my opinion, Terence Crawford's really his coming out party in the welterweight division. And if one thing that can be said about the fight is that he's now beaten one of those guys that were considered to be at the top of the division. There still remains a question as far as when he's going to fight Errol Spence Jr. and in my mind, whether those fights are going to happen before these young guys who are at 147 pounds really emerge. And Jaron Ennis is the guy that I'm thinking about specifically. Whether or not those fights are going to happen very quickly. So when I heard Keith Thurman jump out the woodwork, because I think that's about all you can really say is he popped out the woodwork and called out Terence Crawford and said, look, man, I would be very willing to fight Terence Crawford. He said, though, he has a little bit of a caveat on, a little bit of a warning, or what do you call it, just a little bit, a requirement. He said that he says in about 8 months, that's all I need, 8 months. And I think that what he means is he probably needs a tune-up fight, and a tune-up fight pretty quickly. And then after that, one fight in, he'd be willing to fight Terence Crawford. Now, the reason why I think that is good news is because Terence Crawford would fight Keith Thurman. And Terence Crawford is in a position to fight Keith Thurman. And if he did fight Keith Thurman, that honestly sells the fight or puts more pressure on everybody to make that fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, which I personally think is the end result that I really, really want to see. A lot of people that listen to it, because, you know, you guys listen, whenever there's a Terence Crawford video on there, don't listen to what I actually have to say about Terence Crawford. He is, my opinion, he's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Terrific fighter. He has a chance to beat Errol Spence Jr. I just don't think that he's going to beat Errol Spence Jr. because it's a style matchup. However, in a fight with Keith Thurman, clearly he's a favorite to beat Keith Thurman. But if he fights Keith Thurman, he would be doing something that Errol Spence Jr. has not done. That is about the only guy that is in the top of that weight division that is considered a top welterweight or a champion over the last few years that Errol Spence Jr. has not fought. It's somebody that Terence Crawford said that he wanted to fight when he was at 140 pounds. Keith Thurman, honestly, he only has one loss against Manny Pacquiao. In my opinion, that loss had a lot to do with his layoff. I don't think that had a lot to do with his skill. Now, obviously, for the fight to take place and for people to take Keith Thurman seriously, Keith Thurman is going to need to get, a match in beforehand, right? And, because I think it's been almost 2 years since he fought, 2 years since he fought Manny Pacquiao. Now, you can look at that two ways if you believe what Keith Thurman was saying. And a lot of people never really believed what Keith Thurman was saying when he said he was injured. But when he fought Terence Crawford, when he fought Manny Pacquiao, that his hand still was not all the way fully healed, and he really did not trust. He really did not trust his left hook. But now that he's had even more time off, he got that big payday. I don't know how much he got. I've heard that he got paid as much as $10 million. So he got that big payday and he could afford to take his time off and let his body heal even more. If that hand is healed and he really can throw that left hook, we really be in for a very, very good fight, man. Especially if he is, because I don't think that he is worn out. He should be fresh. He's never really taken any beatings in his career. He's never really had any bad losses. And in fact, in my opinion, I thought that fight, the one fight that he had that was a loss to Manny Pacquiao, was was a very close fight, with the exception of the fact that Keith Thurman got dropped early. Now, obviously, the warning signs for Keith Thurman is that, Keith Thurman kind of got signaled out, or, by the Josecito Lopez fight that he had, that he doesn't like body shots. And if Manny Pacquiao is really able to crunch him to the body like that, Josecito Lopez is really able to crush him to the body like that, I hope that he's been doing his sit-ups and he's been doing his condition of his midsection, and maybe that was like kind of a one-off because he wasn't in shape. But if that's the case and he can't take body shots, that's going to probably be a stoppage by a body shot from Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford got some very, very nasty body shots. However, what Keith Thurman is, provided Keith Thurman is, really in the game and is at his best, is that he's a very, very, very smart fighter. He's a very elusive fighter. He can fight on the back foot, and he has something that could cause Terence Crawford a lot of problems, which is, like I said, if his left hand is good, he's got a left hook. He's got a demon-like left hook. And if he can light off on Terence Crawford and cleanly hit Terence Crawford with that power, he can hurt Terence Crawford. He can and cause Terence Crawford problems. But, obviously for that fight, I would a clear advantage for Terence Crawford. And there's a lot of things that need to take place in order for that fight to happen. But I have a suspicion that it will happen. And this is the reason why I believe that it will happen. Now that Terence Crawford is not going to be with Top Rank, and I think that is pretty much a done and washed issue. Terence Crawford said, look, they couldn't get me the Errol Spence Jr. fight before I was with him, so now that I'm a free agent, why would he be able to get the fight with him? Kind of like a I don't need you type of thing. They're going to start probably building towards, I'm talking about the managers behind Terence Crawford, because he did sign with a new management company. The management company behind Terence Crawford and the PBC have got to see that Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight is getting to the point where it is over $100 million fight. And it could probably be even a bigger fight if they build that correctly, with like maybe 2 or 3 fights, maybe 1 or 2 fights before it. Errol Spence Jr. is somebody that is in need and deserves a tune-up fight. He is probably not going to want a tune-up fight. He said that his next fight that he anticipates it being a big fight. But I don't. I think that probably Al Heyman, the Fox and all that, and Fox and all them, if they can't really get a big mega fight for him, and the real mega fight right now is the Terence Crawford fight, that they'll put him in against a guy that Errol Spence Jr. can get knocked, basically make sure that he doesn't have any rust, get a devastating knockout, look very good in it, right? Just like that, because, and he deserves it, because he's been beating very difficult competition and high-level competition for the last several years. It's been a while since he had that the last soft touch he had was Carlos Ocampo, and that was several years ago. So I would see him getting one of those type of fights. At that point in time, maybe Ugas would be available, so he fights Ugas. Terence Crawford at the same time is going to need big names to continue to make money on pay-per-view. I'm hoping that his pay-per-view versus Sean Porter did well, but if he's able to get him, he beat Sean Porter. If he's able to get, a Keith Thurman fight on a pay-per-view, then I think that leads right into that Errol Spence Jr. fight, which I think is going to be the end result of all of it, provided that, and I'm going to tell you that I really truly mean this, provided that Jaron Ennis does not somehow play spoiler in this stuff, because the longer it takes, the higher that man is going to get in them rankings. And I'm telling you, that man is trouble for Terence Crawford. That man is trouble for Errol Spence Jr. and can definitely upset the apple cart if these guys take too long to make that happen. So anyway, that's my take on the matter. I'm glad to hear that Keith Thurman says he's willing to do it. I hope that fight gets made. Obviously, I got Terence Crawford in it, but in a fight that could be very interesting, especially if Keith Thurman is all the way back and gets that tune-up. So that's my take. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.